Good evening, all of you. Welcome back to Ansarkari. So, we are continuing with the topic of the modern welfare criteria. So, today we are going to start with the Amartya Sen's capability approach. As the name suggests, he is emphasizing more upon the capability of the human beings. The creation of human resource is very critical, and that is also very crucial for effective functioning which matters the most under this theorem. For example, he says that effective functioning is dependent upon the real freedom of the people. Real freedom can also include the fundamental rights and their effective implementation. So, another context that we can take is the poverty or the poor people. So, they face higher constrictions again because of their low capabilities or low skills, and that leads to reduced capabilities to function effectively in the society. So that is why investing in people is important here. So create human resource and empower them. So this will help in developing their own capabilities, the modern state of the art skills which are needed in terms of, again, you can say bolstering and emboldening their capabilities. So that is, we can say, in a way, the most appropriate measure according to Amartya Sen to measure the changes or improvement in the social welfare. So, what constitutes the most basic capabilities for us? Which are crucial for human development. So, we can say long and healthy life. So, in a way, we focused more upon the qualitative aspects, knowledge and equitable access to education, then access to resources, or we can say quality resources also. For example, potable water, then decent standard of living. This will include both qualitative and the quantitative aspects. Apart from this, again, democratic participation of people. So these are some of the basic capabilities which are important. So there are two key words which he emphasized, which is human functionings and capabilities. By functionings, we mean the doings of the people, doings. So, for example, this would include well-nourished body, which is important for quality health. A person, if he or she is able to work, and we can say being literate. So these are the example of functionings. Whereas capabilities constitute two elements. One is functionings plus the freedom and the choices of the people. So these are the elements of, we can say, the capabilities which are important to analyze the quality of life. In the end, we are using the capabilities of the people. So we say that people are agents of change. So if we empower, for example, the poor people, they are empowered, they can become the agents of change of their own lives. So this can be one of the practical applications. Apart from this, again, the practical application where we see the usage of the capability approach can be seen in the development of the Human Development Index, or when you look into, for example, the Happiness Index, and also the Multidimensional Poverty Index. So somewhere we can say these index and the formulation have taken inspiration from the Amartya Sen's capability approach. So this is all about the basic idea related to the capability approach. Now we are moving on to the next topic. Again, this is also related to the welfare. In this, we will be focusing more upon the, again, economic efficiency, how that changes, what are some other factors which impacts the economic efficiency. For here we are basically covering market failure, what is market failure and the causes, and again, what are the solutions for this? We'll talk about externalities and public goods. Role of public sector also comes in here. So in a way, this is also crucial for the developmental economics at the same time. So what is the simple meaning of when we say market failure? It is simply stated when when the market fails to achieve economic efficiency or fails to maximize the social welfare, then we say the market fails. So we have studied different criteria for maximizing social welfare and the efficiency. For example, if the market is not able to achieve the Pareto optimum point, we can say the market fails. So what are the causes behind market failing? Causes. So in a way, there are four main causes behind this. One is the existence of monopoly, or we can say imperfect market conditions. Because again, the monopolist has the sole power. The monopolist player is exercising the sole power regarding the output and the prices to be charged for, again, the amount of output that would be produced by the firm. So this leads to economic inefficiency. Then we say there are presence of externalities. So externalities are both positive and negative, and both of them are impacting a deviation from, again, the ideal situation of maximization of social welfare. So it can also be like written in the form of diseconomies in production or even in consumption also. Then third cause is incomplete information. Today, we can say this is existing or functioning in the form of dark patterns or predatory, say, advertising practices which are prevalent. And somewhere again, we can say the impact of artificial intelligence on the transparent functioning of the market mechanism. Fourth, we say the existence of public goods. This is also one of the causes, public goods or the public sector, where we see the role of government comes into the picture. Now we will look individually into all these reasons. So firstly, we will take monopoly and we'll go more deeper into how it is a cause. So monopoly fails to achieve the Pareto optimum point. And we have studied under Pareto optimality that mathematically or algebraically, how can we write the Pareto optimum or the equilibrium condition when we say that the marginal rate of substitution of the consumers in the society is equal to the marginal rate of transformation of community. When both of them are equal, then we say we achieve the Pareto optimal point. And here we see that again under Pareto optimality, price needs to be equal to the marginal cost. But again, under monopoly, we have seen equilibrium is when price is greater than the marginal cost. So when we take the ratio, for example, there are two goods, X and Y, ratio of the marginal cost of the two goods is greater than the price ratio of the two goods, because simply price is greater than the marginal cost, so the ratio is also going to be greater. And this is the same, can be written as the marginal rate of transformation of X and Y. So again, MRT is less than the price ratio of the two goods, and this is what the producers are facing. On the other side, we see that consumers, they are equalizing price ratio to the marginal rate of substitution for again the two goods. So in a way, we see MRS turns out to be higher than the marginal rate of transformation for the two goods, but we need them to be equal in order to achieve the Pareto optimum, and hence we say that monopoly becomes one of the cause and the reason behind deviation from the ideal situations. So under this, when we say MRS is greater than MRT, consumers are at a, we can say, better situation, and there they are in an advantageous situation. So they would want more of a particular good which is already available in the market, but since the producer is a monopolist, so they will not be providing or producing the adequate quantity of the goods which are actually needed. So in a way, there is going to be underproduction in the market because MRT is less. MRT reflects the welfare faced by producers. MRS is for the consumers. So there's a situation of underproduction and we are not at the optimum or the required position of production in the society. So graphically, we represent this. So we have commodity Y on Y-axis, commodity X on X-axis. We have our utility possibility frontier. We have the indifference curves showcasing the welfare of the consumers in the society. So IC1, indifference curve 2, indifference curve 3, indifference curve 4 is there. IC3 is tangent to the utility possibility curve, let's say AB. And here the Pareto optimal point is being reflected by point E on the curve, where we see that we need OM of commodity X and ON amount of commodity Y. But actually we see that monopolist player is at point H, where you can see that slope of the indifference curve is more because the indifference curve intersecting at point H is much or way more steeper. So the steeper the curve, the higher is the slope, and indifference curve's slope is the marginal rate of substitution. So since slope of MR, the IC is greater than that of the utility possibility frontier, which is again reflecting the slope is MRT for utility possibility curve. So this situation again, MR is greater than MRT at point H, and actual that is being produced by the monopolist OQ amount of commodity X. So this is what the monopolist produces or makes available in the market, and this is what the consumers actually are demanding for. So this amount becomes the underproduction in the market. Now we come to externalities as a second cause behind market failure. So externalities, as we stated, they can be beneficial, which are called as positive externalities. They can be detrimental to the welfare of consumers or the society. So these are the negative externalities and the impacts on the economic units of the economic units or the functioning of the firms on the other constituents of the society. So again, we'll take the individual cases here. So when we face external economies, let's say economies, which we are talking about, the positive impacts. If we are seeing external economies, then we also write it algebraically as that the private marginal cost is greater than the social marginal cost, because positive impacts for the society, but the private marginal cost is of the firm. Social marginal cost is of the society, because positive impacts are being phased, are being, we can say, utilized or being enjoyed by the society, so their marginal cost is relatively less than that of the private marginal cost. So these impacts are not accounted in the prices by the firms. That is why their marginal cost is relatively higher. So external benefits can be created in two ways by the firms. First is firm can expand the production. So by expanding the production in the economy, the firm, it can render, can say, direct services in the form of like training the employees, improving their skills. So this is training is the positive externality and the impact. Second way can be again by expanding the production. The firm can make the supply of, let's say, supply of inputs cheaper for all the firms, for all firms. So this becomes positive because it is impacting all the firms in the market, and the price of the inputs is falling. How it can fall? For example, through construction of a bridge, we can say that transportation cost comes down, the logistics cost comes down, the transportation cost will fall. This will help in, you can say, reducing the prices of the inputs. And also another positive impact can be increase in the land value in the neighborhood area. So this is also another positive impact for, again, the members of the society. Now we come to negative externalities. So under negative externalities, we see again there's negative impact because of the economic activity. This can be pollution of different types. For example, pollution by discharge of untreated water by industrial units, untreated waste in the water bodies. So it creates again water pollution, as we see Yamuna and Ganga rivers being polluted by heavy metals. So this is negative externalities because of the economic growth particularly. We specifically use the word growth and not development. So it is not necessary that increase in GDP will increase the development. Not necessary. So here another example we can also take, for example, loud music creates negative externality because it creates noise, which is unpleasant to the ears. A question arises how the externalities they lead to market failure. How do we reach this situation of market failure because of the impact and the process behind the functioning of the impacts of externalities? So in this case, again, we'll take up different cases of, for example, we'll start with the positive impacts, which is the external benefits or the economies. So here we saw that private marginal cost is higher than the social marginal cost, and represent this graphically. So on y-axis we have the price, on x-axis we have the quantity. So downward sloping is the demand curve. Upward sloping, we have the supply curve. And we'll draw two supply curves so as to show the situation of the difference between the private marginal cost and the social marginal cost. So here, because private marginal cost is higher, so SS curve represents the summation of the private marginal cost, whereas the lower curve, which is dotted, is the summation of all the social marginal cost. And social marginal cost can also be written as social marginal cost minus the positive impacts is equal to the private marginal cost. So when you subtract from this curve the impacts, we will reach this situation, and you can clearly see that prices are higher here. That is why private marginal cost is also higher. So you can see that equilibrium will be reached at point E. This can be labeled as point T. This can be point K. So we get two production points, and the ideal point which is being demanded is, let's say, this is U and this is U dash. So the demander, the social desirable is this amount of production, but we are at this level. So the gap is representing underproduction. Because there is underproduction, so we are at a situation of market failure. And the shaded region of this triangle E, T, and K, this triangle represents the loss of welfare. So this is the loss of welfare. Now this was for the positive externalities. Coming to negative externalities, how the graph will change. So under negative externalities, the situation becomes opposite. Had the private marginal cost is less than the social marginal cost, because pollution will impact the society more, the diseases will increase. So the marginal cost, we can say, for example, the high out of pocket expenditure, or the again the money that will go into the treatment of the diseases will increase. So the social marginal cost will be increasing. So graphically also, the position of the two graphs will reverse. We have our downward sloping demand curve and two supply curves. So the curve, the supply curve which is above, it represents the summation of social marginal cost, because that is higher here, and the lower one is summation of the private marginal cost of the society. So in this case, we have this shaded region, and this length, which is, we can say, BE, and this is, let's say, point L. So BE, this size is reflecting the negative externality. Size of the negative externality which is there. And in this case, you will see there would be overproduction, because society is demanding this much amount of output, but actually this is being produced. So this is overproduction situation in the society. So even when you are underproducing or overproducing, we will see loss of social welfare, because there is availability of excess, or we can say there is misallocation of the resources. So we have the solution in the form of government intervention in order to reach the optimum level and reduce the, we can say, the aberration or the diversion away from Pareto optimum. So government has two tools. One is it can impose taxes, it can also provide subsidies. So when we're talking about taxes, so taxes would be again imposed upon, let's say, the producers. This would be helping us in the situation of the negative externalities. So when taxes are produced, so it will raise the private marginal cost, because under negative you can see private marginal cost is less than the social marginal cost. So this curve will shift up, and we will reach equilibrium at L, which was demanded by the society, and overproduction will be reduced. So that's how it will work, and the size of tax will also be this much, the size of the negative externality. So This would be tax per unit of the good, and if we have to calculate the entire size of tax, so that would be this again shaded region, and this we can say the length showcases the total amount of goods. So we'll multiply this region or this size with again the size of the tax per unit. In case of subsidies, subsidies would be used when we see positive externalities. Subsidies are, in a way, they are provided to encourage the activities, and activities they would be encouraged when we are seeing positive impacts, which is helping us in growth and development both, which is improving the standard of living of the people. So for example, subsidies are provided to encourage, let's say, education in the society, or we can say access to healthcare, or even to reduce the, we can say, the to make the healthcare services more affordable. So this will, we can say, private marginal cost when it is higher than the social marginal cost under the situation of positive externalities. See, subsidies are provided. So now we come to the another reason, which is public goods or the public sector. Why do we need actually the existence of public sector in the economy? Why not again private sector can cater to all the demands in the market? So public goods have two important characteristics, and these two characteristics can be defined with again very important keywords. First is that they are non-rivalry in nature, non-rivalry in the consumption. What do we mean by this is that, like, the availability of the public goods even after the consumption by, let's say, one member or two member is not impacting its availability. Even the same amount can be consumed by another consumer in the society. So it is non-rival in nature. It is not depleting with each amount of consumption in a way. So for example, we have national defense, or we talk about the parks. If few people are using parks, that is not reducing the size of the park. That service is available to all in an equitable manner. And the second characteristics is that it is non-excludable. Non-excludable in nature is, again, it is very difficult to exclude some people to access the public goods who are not even willing to pay for those services. So because it is very difficult to identify such type of people, that is why the public goods are non-excludable from their accessibility. Example, again, the benefits of the defense services in terms of providing and taking care of the security, the national security, is enjoyed by all the people, irrespective of the payment of taxes by the people. Even if people who are not paying the taxes, they are also able to equally enjoy the defense services and in a way the protection being provided by the defense forces. So this leads to free riders problem, because public goods are non-excludable. So the people who are not willing to pay, but they are also able to take advantage of the public goods on the part of the people who are paying for those services are known as free riders. Now we'll talk about public goods and Pareto optimality. In a way, we are talking about again the relation with the market failure. So we assume again two individuals are there, and let's say the public good that we take here is pollution control project being run by the government. A and B are the two individuals in the society. So because again there are these two different individuals, their marginal benefit that they will be deriving out of this project are going to be different. So we will have different marginal benefit curves for both the individuals, which will be drawing. So marginal benefit is written as MB. Here we have quantity of you can say clean air as a result of this project. So we draw the marginal benefit curve. So this is the marginal benefit curve of individual B. This is for marginal benefit curve of individual A, and the higher one is the market marginal benefit curve, which is summation of MB, B, and marginal benefit of individual A. And here we have the marginal cost curve, the society. So we get 3 points. So we can label them. Let's say this is A1, this is B1, this point is A2, this is B2, and this MN, Q1, Q2 representing the quantity. This is the total quantity, and this is A3 and B3, this point. So we can see that since both the individuals are different, so their marginal benefit curves, they'll be drawn differently because they are having different tastes and preferences. So they will be having different impact of the clean air on their quality of life. So marginal benefit curve is also representing the price that A and B are willing to pay on the basis of the benefit that they're deriving out of clean air. So for example, we take A individual. So A individual will pay Q1 A1 for OQ1 amount of clean air. I mean, this would be paid for OQ1 amount of clean air. And B will similarly pay Q1 B1 amount for same level of clean air, because we are at this level only. So we're talking about these two situations. And I'm talking about B, it pays, this we have written here only B1, Q1 B1 for the same level of air. So when we're talking about the Pareto optimality, as we move forward, let's say talk about OQ level of clean air, which is the total clean air that is a result or the outcome of the project being run by the government. We see that at the aggregate marginal benefit curve, which is the topmost curve, we are at point E. You can see the marginal cost is equal to the price that, you can say, the buyers are willing to pay. The aggregate price will turn out to be this. So we see that aggregate price for both the individuals, which is, say, at point E, is equal to their aggregate marginal cost, that is OH. OH is this amount we're talking about. An aggregate price that they will pay will be QE. So you can say the height is same here. So these two things are equal. So price is equal to the marginal cost. That is the situation that we need even to achieve Pareto optimality. But again, it becomes, even in this situation, it is difficult to exclude the people who are not paying for, again, the clean air accessibility. So each individual will think that they can free ride the benefits by not paying on the part of the taxes being paid by the other consumers. And when collectively people start thinking in such way that their non-payment will not be going to make any big difference on the government's revenue, so this collective thinking, it leads to market failure. So that's how even public goods leads to market failure. So these were individual causes, and here we have completed with the modern welfare criteria under microeconomics.